Good afternoon, and welcome to the New York City Committee on Economics Development. At this time, please place your phone on vibrate or silent mode. If you wish to submit testimony, send it to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that's testimony@council.nyc.gov. At this time during the hearing, do not approach the dais. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon and welcome to this hearing of the New York City Council's Committee on Economic Development. I am Majority Leader Amanda Farias, Chair of the Committee on Economic Development. I want to thank you all for being here today. Before I introduce today's hearing topic, I'd like to acknowledge committee members who are currently present. Thank you, Councilmember Aviles, for being here. I also want to extend my appreciation to the New York City Economic Development Corporation and other stakeholders for participating in this important hearing. Today we will hear 6 bills and 1 resolution. These bills include 3 that I have sponsored: Introductions 164, 165, and 810. Introduction 164 would require the Department of Small Business Services, or EDC, to produce a report delineating a quantitative and qualitative analysis of the projected impact of a proposed economic development project on affected communities. 30 days prior to the approval of the award of an economic development benefit for a project, a community impact report would be submitted to the council. Introduction 165 would require the mayor to designate an office or agency to conduct a feasibility study on the creation of a linkage fee that a developer would pay for any residential or commercial construction project that is larger than 100,000 square feet. The fee is intended to fund job training for workers to be employed at the project site and for job contribution, which is paid into a trust for the benefit of the community within a 2-mile radius of the job site. Introduction 810 would alter the terms of a contract between the city and EDC and require EDC to create a public housing entrepreneurship program to support public housing residents in growing their businesses. The bill would also require EDC to issue a report about the viability of using NYCHA-owned vacant property for commercial pop-ups. In addition to my 3 bills, we have 2 bills sponsored by Councilmember Aviles, Introductions 860 and 861, and Introduction 844, sponsored by Councilmember Riley. Introduction 860 would require EDC to include additional job training and employment data for projects over $150,000 in its annual report. Introduction 861 would alter the terms of the contract between the city and EDC by requiring EDC to include disclosure of certain details regarding community benefit agreements related to EDC projects in its annual report. Introduction 844 would alter the contract between the city and the EDC by requiring EDC to offer microgrants up to $10,000 where appropriate to establish, expand, or grow businesses as part of the Public Housing Entrepreneurship Program. Lastly, we will hear Resolution 77, which I have sponsored. The resolution calls upon the New York State Legislature to pass and the governor to sign legislation that would create a linkage fee for large-scale residential or commercial projects and create a trust that would receive this fee to fund job training, education, and employment programs. And even though I read all of that, we're having a tech problem, and I will probably have to start again, so we're going to pause.
Can you copy the Zoom in the room?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'm just gonna start from the top, just in case, just for public record and good government transparency. All right, y'all, just gonna make sure that's on record. Good afternoon and welcome to this hearing of the New York City Council's Committee on Economic Development. I am Majority Leader Amanda Farias, Chair of the Committee on Economic Development. I want to thank you all for being here today, and before I introduce today's hearings topic, I'd like to acknowledge committee members who are present and acknowledge Councilmember Aviles has joined us. I also want to extend my appreciation to the New York City Economic Development Corporation and other stakeholders for participating in today's important hearing. Today we will hear 6 bills and 1 resolution. These bills include 3 that I have sponsored, Introductions 164, 165, and 810. Introduction 164 would require the Department of Small Business Services, or EDC, to produce a report delineating a quantitative and qualitative analysis of the projected impact of a proposed economic development project on affected communities. 30 days prior to the approval of the award of an economic development benefit for a project, a community impact report would be submitted to the council. Introduction 165 would require the mayor to designate an office or agency to conduct a feasibility study on the creation of a linkage fee that a developer would pay for any residential or commercial construction project that is larger than 100,000 square feet. The fee is intended to fund job training for workers to be employed at the project site and for job contribution, which is paid into a trust for the benefit of the community within a 2-mile radius of the job site. Introduction 810 would alter the terms of the contract between the EDC and the city and require EDC to create a public housing entrepreneurship program to support public housing residents in growing their businesses. The bill would also require the EDC to issue a report about the viability of using NYCHA-owned vacant property for commercial pop-ups. In addition to my 3 bills, we have 2 bills sponsored by Councilmember Aviles, Introductions 860 and 861, and Introduction 844 is sponsored by Councilmember Riley. Introduction 860 would require EDC to include additional job training and employment data for projects over $150,000 in its annual report. Introduction 861 would alter the terms of the contract between the city and EDC by requiring EDC to include disclosure of certain details regarding community benefit agreements related to EDC projects in its annual report. Introduction 844 would alter the contract between the city and the EDC by requiring EDC to offer microgrants up to $10,000 where appropriate to establish, expand, or grow businesses as part of the Public Housing Entrepreneurship Program. Lastly, we will hear Resolution 77, which I have sponsored. The resolution calls upon the New York State Legislature to pass and the governor to sign legislation that would create a linkage fee for large-scale residential or commercial projects and create a trust that would receive this fee to fund job training, education, and employment programs. Before I turn the floor over to my colleague to speak on her bill, I would like to express my hope that this legislative package would help establish specific initiatives to support economic development and job creation in public housing. Expanding agency transparency on how they are helping these communities while creating new programs that target the underserved are imperative steps to offset negative community impacts that relate to large economic development projects throughout our city. Finally, I would like to thank the Economic Development team here at the Council, Senior Counsel Alex Polinoff, Senior Policy Analyst William Hongach, and Finance Analyst Glenn Martelloni for all their hard work preparing for this hearing. I will now turn the microphone over to Councilmember Aviles to speak on intros 860 and 861.
Thank you, Chair Farias, and thank you, everyone, for being here today and for putting our two bills, Intro 860 and 861, on the agenda. I believe both of these are critical to achieving greater transparency with regards to economic development plans in our communities. I guess starting with Intro 860, I want to provide just a bit of context. In District 38, the EDC has often made promises to execute large projects that require substantial public investment, promising our neighborhoods significant economic and workforce development opportunities that unfortunately never seem to materialize as they are sold. In District 38, one such example is the Made in New York campus, launched in 2017, way before all of our times. EDC promised that through this film and television hub placed in Sunset Park, they would be able to advance diversity and equity in the media and entertainment industries, create thousands of jobs. Our community has yet to see those particular benefits, and we know the project is soon to launch, especially in terms of local workforce development. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Industry City, an EDC project we are now many years into, and yet the economic development benefits of that project has not yet seemed to cross over 3rd Avenue and into our community. As such, our community has grown very weary and are now understandably extremely skeptical of any EDC announcement of any project promising jobs and promising grand investments, which even include the most recent redevelopment of the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal, of which I'm very excited about, yet it's still hard to hold any local benefits there that we see. So Intro 860 would ensure that the EDC reports on key measures for such projects, including community engagement efforts to promote local hiring, zip code data regarding participants in job training programs, and whether jobs are full-time or part-time, seasonal or temporary, union or non-union, to name a few of the metrics included in this legislation. Understanding these metrics is critical to understanding the true benefits of these projects to not only our neighborhood, but to the city. Moving into Intro 861, this local law would amend the administrative code of the City of New York in relation to requiring disclosure of community benefits agreements in the annual report by certain contracted entities. As part of certain economic development projects, EDC may also engage in community benefits agreements, the contents of which community members may not actually be aware of, and at times, the intended benefit may even fail to materialize. In one such example in my district, the MSC cruise operator agreed to donate funds towards a Green Thumb garden in Red Hook as an acknowledgement of the lucrative agreement that they had reached with the EDC. However, no such Green Thumb garden actually exists in Red Hook. It was given to another community. And Red Hook community was left scratching their head as to how this came to be considered our community benefit. Both of these bills are critically important for understanding how local communities benefit from large-scale economic development projects that often feel extractive. So I look forward to robust conversations so how we can arrive at the best possible legislation. And I know this is work that we have been working on together in partnership with EDC to be more transparent, to be more clear and exacting, and also to include the community in part of the decision-making, not just tell us what our benefits are. And I think that is a really important element that I will continue to press ever in my tenure as council member and as a resident. So with that, thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. I'd also like to acknowledge we've been joined by Councilmember Bottcher. I'd like to remind council members and members of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. For those members of the public, if you agree with something that is being stated, please use this hand gesture. Otherwise, all members of the public shall remain silent. I will now like to ask members of the administration to raise their right hands as the affirmation is read by our committee council.
Please raise your right hands. To all members of the administration testifying today, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you. You can begin when ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Farias and members of the Economic Development Committee. My name is Shahyla Stevens, and I am the Director of Equity and Community Impact for the New York City Economic Development Corporation. I am joined by my colleagues PJ Berg, who is the Executive Vice President for Real Estate Transaction Services Department, and Mikkel Adgate, who is our Senior Vice President of Government and Community Relations Department. The New York City Economic Development Corporation is charged with creating a vibrant, inclusive, and globally competitive economy for all New Yorkers. Our work is guided by 4 strategic priorities: strengthening business confidence, growing innovation industries with a focus on equity, building neighborhoods as places to live, learn, work, and play, and delivering sustainable infrastructure. I want to thank the Council and this committee for your continued partnership in supporting economic development projects and programs to benefit local communities, residents, and businesses across all 5 boroughs. Regarding 860 and 861, we would like to state that we would like to support and advance equitable economic development. And in 2022, EDC created the Equity and Community Impact Division to both strengthen and better quantify EDC's impact across communities. I'm privileged to serve as the first director of this pillar, which is designed to mobilize EDC's equitable economic development strategy, focused specifically on economic mobility in areas such as MWBE, workforce development, diverse entrepreneurship. My group's initiatives are designed to deliver direct positive impact for all New Yorkers, focusing on enhancing quality of life and promoting equity across the city. At EDC, we take our mission of creating an inclusive economy for all New Yorkers seriously, and we are proud of our transparency and the work that we do to ensure that our projects benefit local neighborhoods. To that end, we look forward to working with the Council on Introduction 860 and 861, and working together to provide additional reporting on community benefits commitments, job training, and employment associated with EDC projects. Assessing and ensuring positive community impact of our projects is an essential part of EDC's work. To that end, in January 2024, EDC launched its first measurement and evaluation strategy, focused on deepening our understanding of EDC's community impact. EDC is currently developing robust mechanisms to ensure positive impacts occur, such as developing metrics that allow us to annually measure our agency-wide equitable dollar investment in opportunities that result in increased jobs, diverse entrepreneurship access, innovative industry expansion, and stronger, more sustainable communities across New York City. Our data collection efforts will provide a baseline of our current citywide community impacts, while providing evidence for how EDC can cultivate additional investment opportunities, particularly within the city's disadvantaged communities. Additionally, EDC's in-house research team conducts a variety of impact-related analysis with an aim towards ensuring positive fiscal impact for all of our projects. With respect to reporting, EDC is committed to transparency, and to that end, we already track and produce a vast amount of data regarding a wide range of community impacts. Today, we will highlight 3 of those efforts: our annual investment projects report, the NYC EDC Impact Report, and the Mayor's Management Report. The annual investment projects report is submitted to the New York City Council and posted on the EDC website by January 31st of each year. Last year, this comprehensive 3-volume report totaled over 900 pages and covered 449 projects. It provides robust information on projects that receive financial assistance in excess of $150,000, including, among others, project name, location, land and square footage, type, duration, and estimated total amount of city assistance received, employee information, including where applicable, information regarding NYC residency, health benefits, the number and percentage of employees earning less than a living wage, and for projects with 250 or more employees, compensation data within 3 wage bands. We are proud of this transparency, and we believe this report gives the council and public extensive insight into EDC's projects and initiatives. The EDC website also includes a link for public comments and questions. EDC also publishes an annual impact report, which provides a user-friendly review of EDC's work over the year, providing highlights on our project progress, as well as qualitative and quantitative insights about programs and initiatives. This document is available in print and online to the public and provides a synthesized view of our work, including many of the areas of interest in Introduction 164. EDC also reports to the public and the City Council twice yearly as a part of the Preliminary Mayor's Management Report, or the PMMR, which covers performance for the first 4 months of the fiscal year from July through October, and the annual Mayor's Management Reports, including information on our operations as well as key performance metrics. While EDC supports the spirit of the Introduction 164, we believe that the preparation of these reports would be extremely costly, and the information reported would be redundant to information EDC already reports. In addition, EDC's projects often go through extensive public review processes, such as environmental review, the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure, or the ULURP, or similar public review processes, many of which already contain detailed disclosure requirements that overlap with the requirements considered by this bill, such as requirements for reporting of information concerning residential and business displacement. This bill would require significant additional analysis and will delay projects, necessitate the hiring of more consultants, and ultimately increase project costs. All things that we believe are not in the interest of New Yorkers who want government to move faster and spend more wisely. For all those reasons, we are opposed to Introduction 164. Turning to Introduction 165, which seeks to require a study on the feasibility of establishing a commercial and residential linkage fee, the administration is opposed to a linkage fee feasibility study. The administration believes that the linkage fees are not the best vehicle to support New York City communities. Specifically, the city is confident that linkage fees, which operate as tax on development, would discourage the very housing production that the city desperately needs to solve its current housing crisis. It also broadly believes that such fees would act as barriers to new development that would help to expand the city's tax base and allow council and the administration more funding to carry out key initiatives. We support the city's existing approach to funding workforce development programming. For all those reasons I've outlined, the administration cannot support the proposed linkage fee study. In the current environment, and given our substantial concerns about linkage fees, undertaking a study at this time would needlessly divert resources and staff time. With respect to Introduction 810 and 844, which address public housing entrepreneurship, a commercial pop-up program, and microgrants, the New York City Housing Authority, not EDC, is the appropriate entity for these efforts. NYCHA already has established entrepreneurship programming facilitated by the Office of Resident Economic Empowerment and Sustainability, or REES program. REES and its partners throughout the city already work to help NYCHA residents launch or grow business through business education, access to financing, affordable space, and other key assistance. Strategic expansion and increased funding of these initiatives under REES accomplishes the goal of the legislation without creating redundancy. EDC remains happy to collaborate with NYCHA and REES as appropriate to support and grow their existing programs. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, folks, for your testimony this morning. I have a couple questions based off of your testimony, and then I'll jump into the general questions around the legislation. Just quickly on the three reports that you folks already administer outwards. Where do they get sent? Is it just to the mayor's office, or both to the mayor and the city council? Or is it mayor's office and then just publicly listed on your website?
So the annual investment projects report, we have a hard copy here available, is submitted to the mayor, the city council, and available on the EDC website.
Okay.
And the impact report, this is available on our website, but we also print hard copies.
Okay. And then the MMR is sent to the mayor's
It
office.
goes through
and
the same
city council.
process.
Okay, great. And then in terms of Intro 164, you believe the preparation of the reports would be extremely costly. That's just a guesstimate, or have we looked at an estimation of cost?
So we have started to think through what the costs would entail. Depending on the size and the scope of the project, it could be tens of thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars, given the amount of detail that is being asked for in that reporting. In addition, because of the time that the reporting is asked to be submitted, we're concerned that it will actually delay project implementation, because if we are doing that type of analysis before we even go through, say, an environmental review process or a ULURP process, that would essentially slow down the work that we are trying to do.
Okay, great. And then I see you listed that the administration doesn't believe linkage fees are the best vehicles to support New York City communities. Has that been a conversation you've been having back and forth with the administration, mayor, and the deputy mayor, or is that just EDC's perspective?
Thank you for the question, and yes, it is. We've consulted with our partners across the administration and confirmed that, during a once-in-a-generation housing crisis, any action that could exacerbate the housing crisis and jeopardize our jobs recovery is it's not something that we agree with.
Have they answered to how they plan on getting community commitments from development happening in communities? Because they have not been able to do that over the last 2 years.
How to obtain commitments
From the developments, like our CBAs that happen around surrounding development in communities, whether that's been following up on things that have been from a previous administration or getting firm commitment through an MOU or any legal ways, which we are unable to do. Have they said to you how they plan to get fulfilled commitments through development if linkage fees is not an option that they're willing to consider?
I'll pass it back to Mikkel to begin an answer.
Sure. So, Councilmember, Majority Leader, the conversations that we've had so far about linkage fees in particular are about the principle of an added development fee. We didn't speak specifically with other agencies about existing community benefit agreements and securing commitments. For that side, I can only speak to the EDC process, and as you know, with many of our projects, whether we have points of agreements because of rezonings that we've supported, or we've had commitments that council members and EDC have been able to secure. In those dynamics, we work very closely with the developers as well as our in-house teams to ensure that those are fulfilled. But I do think, to Councilmember Avilas's point about transparency on those commitments, particularly between administration changes, that's something that we're striving to improve on. And I think with Shahaila's team, it's one of the ways that we're really working to improve on. And that's why we look forward to working with the council on 860 and 861 in particular, because we do think that that transparency will be helpful in ensuring that the commitments that were made are actually fulfilled upon.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way at least I'm viewing my role here as a legislator with a limited amount of time, my goal is to make sure I'm leaving New York City, families, the Bronx, people in District 18, better than how they were when I got here. I think it's pretty disingenuous from the administration to say that this seems as if it will operate as a tax on development when we know good and well the city doesn't have the ability to put any taxes, especially on development, along with the fact that we have not yet to today been able to get developers to commit to their CBAs, along with, and I do just want to say, it is not lost on any of us that when we're working on a ULURP or when we're working on a project with an agency, that the financing today, by the time they get to implement, looks different in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And so sometimes that has to be, the CBAs have to be readapted, or the job training that has to be put in place couldn't be fulfilled completely, etc. To me, this feels, I'm trying to think of a better word than saying lazy from the administration to immediately say no to this, considering that they were left with projects from their predecessors, just the same as I was left with projects from my predecessor, where we have to always clean up the people before us's mess. This is a way to solidify that there is a pocket of funds dictated somewhere to ensure whether it's a prevailing wage project, it's a local hire or community hiring project, or we need to create a pipeline in a local school with a STEM, construction, aviation, whatever background, that there's always going to be a continuous designated pot where we can ensure the community that they are included in a development project. And so our conversations will continue after this hearing, but I just want to put that out there, in that we have to create things that live beyond us with certainty and with funding to ensure that we're creating foundation or stabilization for communities. Especially with the fact that while we have great numbers in job creation, we all know in this space that we have created more low-wage jobs than we have mid-wage or high-wage jobs throughout the city. And union employment, job training, and credentialed construction, building trades and construction fields are a direct pathway into midway and high-level employment throughout this city. So I will just put that there. And then actually, I can ask this to council, but do you folks offhand know how long the Office of Resident Economic Empowerment and Sustainability, the REASE program, has existed?
We do not know how long it's existed.
We'll check offline. Okay, thanks folks. Okay, so during fiscal year 2023, many subsidized economic development projects for both commercial and residential were those recorded. How many, do we know how many they were recorded in FY23?
Yes, Majority Leader. So as we mentioned, as part of our annual investment projects report, we do report on a variety of projects. The number that we cited in our testimony was 449 for the previous fiscal year. And so for details on any of those specific projects, we could follow up with you.
Great, and the data that was captured, was there any additional outside of what you listed here for any of those projects?
In terms of additional analysis, so one of the things, and I'll turn it back to Shahila to talk about, is with us standing up the measurement and evaluation team to go even deeper into what is currently reported, is one of the things that her team is focusing on now.
So just to shine a little bit of light on our measurement evaluation efforts, it's the goal of that particular work to be able to provide neighborhood-specific and disaggregated data points so that we can speak more clearly to whom and where these individuals may be getting jobs, where we may be supporting entrepreneurship, including diverse entrepreneurship, and also to be very specific with those that contract with EDC around where and how they should outreach to communities. And also in this measurement and evaluation effort, we are also trying to stand up the proper tracking mechanisms to be able to effectively report back on the progress and the execution of the community benefit agreements.
Okay, great. And then how does EDC currently attract potential developers, either commercial or residential, to areas that are distressed, if at all?
I'm sorry, Councilmember, are you talking about development as a whole or EDC specific
For like our
projects?
city subsidized projects?
So for EDC specific projects, keeping in mind that there may be city subsidy
Sure.
from HPD or other partners, we have both the work that we do as part of our team, but also the coordinated efforts with city agencies. So that's the tracking that we have included in the annual investment projects report. It's how we, share information with community boards and elected officials as we go through those various processes. Just keeping in mind that depending on the type of EDC project, could require different public approvals processes, right? So some projects obviously go through ULURP. Last year, we worked with Councilmember Botcher on a project that went through 13012G, which is a separate public approvals process and has its own sort of tracking and requirements in terms of public input as well. But I will hand it over to PJ in case there's any other thoughts on that.
I'll add, my department, manages transactions where the city is, for instance, putting a publicly owned site up for a development opportunity, and we engage with the local community board and with local developers and have a robust marketing effort to make sure that the opportunities, are really well publicized.
Okay, and when new large-scale commercial development occurs within the city, how does EDC calculate the economic impact to the surrounding area? And what metrics are used to do so?
I think we'll have Mikkel start with that, and then PJ can.
So we have an in-house environmental and economic research program that will look at a project that is sort of potential, look at the opportunities that could be available with it based on, workforce opportunities, the commercial inputs that could be included, the real estate opportunities, and then they will do robust calculations to try to look at what the impact will be over, let's say 30 years, which in the case of Willets Point, when we put out a number that project would have X billion-dollar impact over 30 years, that work is being done by our ERP team. And so we do have information about how that methodology is calculated. It's available on our website. We also shared it back with the committee after our budget hearing.
Okay, great. And I know there's some difficulty and there's direct opposition to Introduction 164, but do you folks have the computational capacity to produce the data requested in the bill?
Based on what our view of it, I think we would need outside support, which is why, as we think about the cost, including additional consultant fees, to my point earlier, calculating the cost of those could be challenging depending on the size and scale of the project. I think we're very confident in the in-house team that we have now, in addition to what's being added on to as part of Shahaila's work. And so, what we would, as we think about discussions with the council, we'd like to think about what we are doing now, but also what we're building upon, because I do believe that a lot of what is being asked for is available in these different reports. And so we want to make sure that we're not being redundant, but we're also providing the level of transparency that we agree with the council is necessary.
Sure. And as we continue talking about the bills, I do want to state, I only ask that because many times it seems as if these things are existing in separate worlds, and this is part of the reason why I think even with the public trying to get information from agencies, like we all know we're producing it with our terminology where we know where to find it, but generally when we want to have analysis of what's happening in our communities or even legislatively where we should be moving to move the city forward, me having to come get a physical report and then ask you to print out all the other, I remember when I first became chair, I was like, can I get all of this stuff just so I can familiarize myself? And then I was handed 3 mountains of documents and I was like, whoa, a lot to read. Sometimes our goal is to make it concise and clear for the public and for us to analyze, because I'm definitely not going to be the economic expert or the land use and real estate expert or the housing expert as the folks that you have in-house. So I'd love to keep talking about what that means and how maybe pulling from all these places annually, biannually, something to produce a document with ease is possible.
Majority Leader, if I could just respond back to that, I think that's very much the spirit and intent behind the impact report that we started developing not long after your tenure, because I think when we started in 2022, it was very clear to us that this 900-page document was not user-friendly. It doesn't help communities understand how EDC could be additive to their neighborhoods. This one is much more public-friendly. It has You know, if you look at it online, there's videos, there's audio. It's much more engaging. That said, again, the level of detail that 164 in particular is asking for would sort of turn this into this, and we're really trying to ensure that we're being consistent across all of our reporting.
Okay, thank you for that. How does EDC plan to incorporate the community impact reports into its decision-making process for approving subsidized projects?
Thank you for that question. I think the biggest piece here is that we want to have the opportunity to use the community impact reports and the measurement evaluation efforts to help inform and design our future projects, and also to assess the efficacy and the actual community-based impact. And so our goal here through measurement and evaluation is to have a number of tools through the life of a project that can tell us if we're going in the right direction, if we need to increase efforts, increase support around certain aspects, workforce, entrepreneurship, or just like community placemaking. And so we plan to use that information coupling with the information that comes out of our economic research team to help design and improve our programming to make sure that we're reaching and meeting the needs of the community and also keeping our promises.
Okay. I'd like to acknowledge we've been joined by Councilmember Salamanca, and I'll jump into questions around Introduction 165 with the linkage fee. In relation to new commercial development projects, how does the city ensure that jobs created by the projects are afforded to local residents?
Yes, so EDC has a number of ways to track the jobs currently right now that are associated with our projects, primarily through the Hire NYC process. And so as those contracts are expected to meet the Hire NYC requirements, we're able to receive reports and data around the location of the potential employee, how many people were hired, if they actually use the Workforce One Center or any of those mechanisms to promote those jobs to the community.
Okay, and then are we dependent on the individual teams of the project to do the local hiring, to either work with the data collection of like where those folks live, who they've hired, and then what information is expected from them to give to us for us to track? Like if we know a project is supposed to have 10% local hire, this is an example I'm just using for the sake of it, how do we ensure, and at what timeline do we ensure before a project begins, that 10% is actually local hire?
So currently, through the life of the project, they have to report annually on the employees that they may have hired through the Hire NYC system. That information is based off of total available jobs for that particular project at any given time, if they've used the system that's in place to actually hire, and then the location in which that particular employee may have been hired from, their salary bracket, and also they're required to report if that person at the time of reporting is still employed, or if they have not been able to retain that person for, whatever reason. They may have left, they may have been terminated, but they do have to report if they were able to retain those employees.
And are you folks also just in consistent communication? I mean, I'm hearing you're getting this annually, so their consistency is somewhat happening because 12 months is a long time. But let's say you look back at the annual report given to you and it says 7 people didn't go through and they don't have reasonings, or 3 of those 7 were contracted for 6 months. Does that delineate out and mean that doesn't go to the local hire number? Like, are we evaluating what they're giving us and having conversations with those folks to produce better numbers, or to hire more local people, or to hire more women, or et cetera?
This is again why we brought on the measurement and evaluation strategy. I will say, very directly that we engage with the contractor and/or employer at, like I said, on an annual basis. If it's found that they cannot prove good faith efforts, so positive and measurable attempts to local hire with us, that is a conversation that we do have. But if it's found that if they have not shown good faith efforts, we have the ability to pursue damages for not meeting the contract obligations.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in that you asked earlier if we're dependent on the developer team, and it's not a dependence, it's actually a binding legal contract that's part of their overall transaction contract with EDC.
Okay. Excluding community benefit agreements, what other mechanisms are used to assure that impacted communities are assisted throughout development?
No, go ahead. So currently, again, in the spirit of transparency and our commitment to continue the repair and relationship building with communities, we are really focused on being able to track, as I mentioned before, more detailed disaggregated goal setting, disaggregated metrics. And so, we're interested now in developing mechanisms to track, as I mentioned before, the location, the gender, disaggregated by race and ethnicity data associated with projects as it relates to workforce development, diverse entrepreneurship, and just overall economic mobility. And so right now, that's a point for us to continue to grow and improve, and we think in support of some of the bills today, we'll be able to do better with that in the future.
Okay, great. How many city construction projects are over 100,000 square feet, both commercial and residential, during fiscal year 2023 that were completed?
I don't have those figures on hand. Most of our projects are, I would say, if not all of our projects are above 100,000 square feet. That would really capture most of our portfolio, but we can get that information for you.
I would appreciate that. What process is used by EDC to conduct residential impact studies during major development projects?
I apologize. Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure. What process is used by EDC to conduct residential impact studies during major development projects?
So, Majority Leader, I'm not familiar with a residential impact study. I would say, though, that as part of our projects, specifically the ones that have to go through environmental review, we go through all of those required steps to look at the, environmental community impacts of projects, and those obviously have a public input process between scoping, public hearings, public reviews of documents.
Okay, so it sounds like nothing additional on top of our regular ULURP review process that has an environmental, a sun study, all of that stuff.
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Are you folks aware of any linkage fee requirements in other jurisdictions that relate to those that I specifically have in 165?
We have surveyed other places that have imposed impact fees or linkage fees. You've done research as well, and I think you know that there's not any one particular flavor of these. They have differences in the various jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me for 1 second while I just find my notes. What we found is that other cities with linkage fees are doing it because they're pretty desperate for streams of revenue to support, to stand up like brand new affordable housing or brand new workforce development programs in places that never had them. And New York City, by contrast, has robust programs in place. And just to use housing as an example, we and you have passed the mandatory inclusionary housing policy, which requires that projects support and cross-subsidize on-site affordable housing. So that's where we think that New York City is a different place from other jurisdictions that have studied that.
Sure. I mean, I don't know if MIH is our best example upon reflection over the years, but it is what we have. So we work within it.
Mm-hmm.
And are there any existing city job apprenticeship programs that target public housing residents that you folks know of or work with?
Existing job placement, is that, I couldn't hear.
Existing apprenticeship programs for public housing residents.
I would defer to NYCHA on that specifically. I can't answer that particular question.
Has EDC conducted any preliminary analysis on what a reasonable linkage fee might be that would generate meaningful revenue without overly burdening the developers?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So when we looked at it, we just fundamentally come back to the finding that New York City is in a housing crisis and is in a jobs recovery. And we're extremely concerned about the impact of additional fees in our already high-cost construction environment. We have seen, and I think the news reports kind of speak for themselves, a dramatic drop-off in construction starts for residential projects and for commercial projects in light of the current market and interest rate climates. And that leads us to conclude that fees on new development are not a kind of productive way to look for new streams of funding. Basically what we're saying is that there isn't that much new development to chase right now, and so charging additional fees on new development wouldn't generate meaningful results and would just further burden projects that are trying to pencil out and trying to start. We're also really focused, and Shahaila's team is helping my team, support smaller emerging developers, many of whom are minority developers. The implementation of a linkage fee, no matter what the size, would impact developers who are trying to get started and would push opportunities toward the more deep-pocketed developers, the billionaires who can kind of afford to throw money at projects.
Okay, well, I respect that response. I just have difficulty, I somewhat detest the reaction to this being a burden instead of this being a commitment to where people are trying to invest. This to me is an investment in community, into community members, into expanding the working class, really into building our future in New York City. And I'm talking to you, not directing it, at you, right? I'm trying really, I'm really trying here to understand. I do want people to have the ability to continue developing throughout New York City. But I also need communities to be heard and be seen and be at the table and receive direct investment. And for me, when creating this bill, I saw this as an opportunity where instead of a development team coming into a community and having to create a CBA where they're having to be in front of a community, creating a CBA and not knowing how much it would actually cost them, they would know by square footage what their investment was going to be in that local community, and they could work within that budget with the community to create the job pipeline, to create the local community hiring fairs, to, et cetera. And it's just really difficult for me to understand that there isn't even an interest in entertaining, while we are in the midst of a housing crisis and an employment crisis, to say, how do we ensure our communities still get the direct investment, including the investment in development and the investments in housing? I can think of a project in my own backyard, the Metro North, where we are going to see massive development across the East Bronx, both north and south. And we have huge issues surrounding parking, surrounding safety, lighting, infrastructure, all of those that, while this is a linkage fee and not an impact fee, which impact fees would include all of those things, and I'm happy to expand it if that's what you think is better. But really, we have 4 stations being created, multiple housing projects being created, and I can't tell you if any one of us can assure you how people will get a job on those sites yet. And so for me, looking at this legislation, looking at it even at a larger scale for the state legislature, this feels like a reasonable solution that still actually just helps commit developers to showcase, here's my monetary commitment that we can work within. It isn't asking more or less of them. So I look forward to our continued conversations. I have additional questions on intros 810 and 844, but I will pause my time for now and pass it over to my colleagues. Councilmember Salamanca is the only one signed up for questions, and then Councilmember Avila. I was like
Thank you.
Councilmember Salamanca first because Councilmember Avila has
Thank
lots
you,
of questions.
Majority Leader.
Farias, and I'm here with my son Aiden. First, thank you for testifying. I just want to ask, maybe one or two questions regarding Hunts Point. We all know that EDC is the biggest landlord in the Hunts Point Peninsula, and the Hunts Point Forward Plan was actually created because of a coalition called the Longwood and Hunts Point Coalition. The Hunts Point and Longwood Coalition was created because of the amount of multi-agency projects that we have in the Hunts Point Peninsula, whether it's the Department of Transportation mediating some land, the state with the, the Bruckner Sheridan Expressway project, and other projects that EDC may actually be funding. And so the Hunts Point and Longwood Coalition was created because we felt that city agencies and state agencies were just not speaking to one another. And they were meeting for a few years, and then we realized that we needed the city's help, and we needed maybe an outside consultant to come and mold their vision and put it on paper. And the predecessor before this president, James Patchett, there was a $200,000 grant that was allocated to assist with this coalition. So it's my understanding that grant, it's at its end. And there's an ask, because the work continues there, now Metro North is coming soon. The Sheridan Bruckner Expressway, it's still under construction, and there's still many projects in Hunts Point. Just wondering, does EDC plan on renewing that $200,000 grant to work with the coalition that actually was the brains behind the Hunts Point Forward Plan?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember. Good to see you. So at this point, I can't answer specifically about that particular pot of funding, but we can certainly come back to you on that. But I do think you raise a very important point to the majority leader's earlier questions about how EDC really does try to come alongside communities in the development of not just our plans, but also like our project paths moving forward. Hunts Point Forward is a really important example of efforts developed in collaboration with community. And so we obviously want to continue that work, but let me come back to you specifically on the pot of funding.
All right. And then, I'm reading here in terms of, I really, if you can sign me on to these bills, I really enjoy, I think that they are common sense bills that we need. My concern with when the Hunts Point Forward Plan was announced, we were extremely happy with the announcement, and there was funding that was allocated. And there was $140 million that was allocated. $100 million went to the Hunts Point markets to help. They are trying to stack up the funding that they need so they can build a new facility. But there was another $40 million that was allocated. And the community was told that the community was going to decide how that funding was going to be distributed within city, within the needs of the community. Lo and behold, 2 months later, we find out that $40 million has already been split up between the Department of Parks Department and the Department of Transportation. There was no real community input. Can you talk a little bit about that, or are you aware of that, of the way, or can you tell me who made the decision to allocate that $40 million without actual community input?
So unfortunately, I'm not prepared to talk about the specifics of that right now. But again, happy to follow up with you with the very specific details.
Yeah. All right. I look forward to your follow-ups. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Councilmember Salamanca. I'm happy to make sure we do a follow-up together to get through some of that, and happy to sign you on to my bills because I'm glad you like them. A little nervous with the land use chair and looking at some of these things sometimes, but glad you like it. I'd now turn it over to Councilmember Aviles.
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Salamanca, 40 million. 140, but 40 was for the community. That's a big number. They promised you. We got no such reflections of high numbers that way in our community. So we'll get into this now. But In terms of, I guess, as it relates to Intro 860, well, EDC may encourage private entities to hire through the city-run career centers such as Workforce One or the NYC Hire, or is it Hire NYC? I forget. Is this an enforceable mechanism at all, or is this just you should use it?
Hire NYC, thank you for your question. Hire NYC is a contractual obligation that individuals need to, at minimum, meet the reporting expectation. And then if it's found that they have not been successful in hiring based on the metrics and parameters that are outlined in their contract, EDC has the right to pursue litigated damages if they find that they haven't made a significant good faith effort.
And how are the metrics decided on those? Like, so for instance, a company is relocating into an EDC project. It's bringing employees. Is it asking for the company to meet a certain level of local hires, or what are the metrics generally that are being pursued?
So the Hire NYC contractual obligation kicks in if an individual is hiring for 10 or more jobs.
Okay.
So there is no obligation, for example, if they're bringing in their own employees, to then commit to additional local New York City employees. But it is based off of the volume of individuals that they plan to hire and or have agreed to hire, and they're required to, post those jobs in the proper locations and then report out on those efforts.
Got it. That's helpful, but essentially that it's kind of an honor system. If they are going to hire, then they should be using this, and if they get caught, what would be the enforcement around it?
So based off of the size or the amount of individuals they're supposed to hire, there is basically a calculation that assesses what we would consider litigated damages for not meeting the contractual obligation.
Have you ever pursued such action?
So I recently took over this program, and I'd have to get back to you on the actual answer to that.
I would like that very much, thank you. So in terms of, just a recent example, again, in this offshore wind port that, we obviously are excited about, I can't say that enough, nevertheless. In the press release, right, we see both 1,000 jobs created, and then we see thousands of jobs created. This is the kind of language that drives us absolutely insane. So how does EDC arrive at these estimates, and how is EDC tracking how many jobs are actually being created through local hire? And I've asked this question to Equinor, and local for Equinor meant New York City fully, and including Westchester and Long Island, and that is not local for me, and I had to qualify that. So if you could respond to this question of all these job estimates that get tossed around very cavalierly.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember. I will start on the estimates, and then I'll hand it over to Shahila to talk about tracking. Without having that particular press release memorized, I think the distinction between the 1,000 and the thousands, if I recall, is that the 1,000 is the calculated construction number that is derived from Equinor and the partners on how many staff is needed to actually do this construction process. And then for every project that gets constructed, there's obviously ongoing job creation that will be needed to, maintain, whether it's offshore wind or it's the soccer stadium or Willets Point, right? There's the distinction between construction and ongoing. And so I believe that the second thousands was related to the ongoing for the growth of the offshore wind industry in New York City. But we can follow up with you on more specifics about that. And then I do think as we use the phrase sort of local hiring, it is important to mention community hiring and the state legislation that was passed, and the Office of Community Hiring that's been stood up by the mayor's office that Shahaila's team works closely with to sort of help provide some clarity on that process.
So through this proposed legislation that's currently going through the rulemaking process, community hiring will give us more legal capacity to focus in on what you're using the term local hiring to be. But to answer your question more specifically, that is the reason why we've stood up this measurement and evaluation strategy. We are currently in the legal review process, trying to figure out how we can be more specific about where and how individuals are hired on our projects. And more importantly, at minimum, creating the proper requirements for substantial outreach and engagement. So not just, quick job fair to say that we did it, but actual intentional engagement with the community and the proper CBOs and community boards to ensure that community members are benefiting from these projects.
Great, thank you. And so the proposed rulemaking that is happening now, is there a timeline around it?
I can't speak to that particular timeline. I think, it would be a good opportunity for us to help support connecting with Talent and Workforce's Community Hiring Department.
Got it. And that's through the mayor's office?
Correct, the Mayor's Office of Talent and Workforce.
Got it. Thank you. We look forward to that. It almost feels like there's somebody's listening, maybe. But thank you. In terms of these larger projects, I think getting at an earlier comment, how does the EDC validate the job claims that are being made by particular, in the instance, let's say, of Equinor, that 1,000 construction jobs are going to be offered?
I think through a series of, research efforts through our economic research team, they're able to use particular available public data and potential size of the project to estimate those particular job numbers.
So you do, in fact, validate what developers are saying?
Yes.
Okay. So I think you've answered some of my questions already in terms of the work that's being done through the rulemaking and your particular role, which we're very excited about. So in terms of what kind of guidelines does EDC follow when entering into community benefits agreements? Or does it just kind of accept the offer that the private entity offers?
I wouldn't say that there are formal guidelines to enter into a community benefit agreement. I will talk about the really intensive community engagement process. So we engage with council members, community boards, engaging directly with community individuals to hear their perspective on how they would like these CBAs to be developed. And then through a series of negotiation processes, finalize that community or the CBA.
Yeah, so I think what you describe is certainly the gold standard, but certainly not always the practice. And I represent a community that has not had that consistent kind of practice applied to projects. I guess I think it would behoove the EDC to make sure there is a consistent practice, not depending on leadership, but like an embedded policy of practice that any agreement that is made must include the community. Because Red Hook is a great example. We were not involved. The community was very surprised to know that its benefit actually went to Cobble Hill, not to Red Hook. So I guess somehow for EDC to codify that community means the actual community, not someone in the mayor's office deciding what they want to do and call it community. In terms as it relates to linkage fees, we understand obviously all these projects are different and they are coming from different administrations. Many we are inheriting, many we are engaged in creating. What we have seen, and part of the onus of this legislation, is that it's like live and die by the project, live and die by the moment, not centered around a set of principles and values, like how are we leaving our communities thereafter, or how is the actual surrounding community within the footprint of these projects truly going to be impacted and held over the long term when we're all gone doing our next jobs. And so what we've seen is that in some instances, I think I have here Hudson River Park Trust. My understanding is that Hudson River Park Trust receives 20% of a revenue share agreement with EDC. Now, this is probably a project-by-project situation, because certainly I've never seen a revenue share agreement in District 38, although we have seen the prior council members set up funds in partnership with EDC when lease agreements needed to be signed. And so rather than the practice of just, I twist your arm because I need something, there should be a principle of engaging and investing truly in the community as a standard of practice. And I guess the last thing to say here is that, this notion that it would potentially harm, a linkage fee would harm a smaller developer, and we're going in that direction. A good number of these projects are not smaller developers. They're larger developers who should pay the fee for the privilege of making profit in our community, because that is what the projects will yield, is profit for them, and for the EDC for that matter. So as far as I'm concerned, it should be a matter of standard of practice that a clear investment be made, whether it's a trust or what that mechanism looks like, but it is the bare minimum that should be done with every project that touches a community, especially if it is a community that needs some more investment and opportunity, which has been overlooked and negatively impacted by extractive kind of economic policy. So I'm going to get off of that because this is Majority Leader's hearing. But last question is, in terms of, I guess, enforcement commitments around CBAs, how does EDC envision how it would enforce CBAs, or how it currently enforces CBAs?
The enforcement of, meeting the agreement and the CBAs is currently under development. I think the most important thing is to just ensure that we have teams and project teams within EDC with the knowledge, as you mentioned, we're often inheriting situations as there's, changes in staff and just positions and roles. And so just creating those internal mechanisms to make sure that that type of information isn't lost is our first step. And then we're working with developing the right structure and actual formal processes to make sure that we are creating the proper systems to follow up and make sure that we're executing on our agreements.
I would just add on to that, Councilmember, as one of the things that we would want to, talk about with you and the Majority Leader for both 860 and 861 is sort of a common understanding of the terminology that we're using, because obviously in some cases a community benefit agreement has a very different definition than others, right? And so like the example that you talked about with, say, a specific cruise ship that's docking at one of our cruise terminals that agrees to some type of community fund is very different than a points of agreement that's negotiated as part of a rezoning. That's very different than, all of these different elements. And I think one of the things that we have found, especially in the few years that Shahaila and I have been on the EDC team, is that given the variety and complexity of projects that we're talking about, obviously Councilmember Salamanca, like you, has a lot of EDC assets in his district. And our tenanting process is very different than the work that PJ's team does with real estate transactions, which is very different than when we're doing capital projects on behalf of parks and DOT, where we might not be able to, talk about a specific community benefit agreement with a public realm investment, but we are doing, workforce programming with Councilmember Nurse for capital work in that district. So I would just say, and one of the things as you keep in mind about our concern with Intro 164 in particular is the idea of cutting a very wide swath for a variety of complex projects. And as we think about 860 and 861, I think a lot of that negotiation will be like making sure we have a clarity on the definitions that we're using when we talk about impact and benefit.
Yeah, I obviously I couldn't agree with you more. We need clarity because I think the agency itself has been in community using interchangeable terms, and at the end of the day, what we see is extraction and no benefit we can hold, and that is outside of maybe one or two. We can see this one or two programs. We can't see the hires because we're never given numbers. We can't see capital investment from parks because there has been none. We cannot point to one project in Sunset Park or in Red Hook in the park with parks, with DOT, or anything of that matter. So we have a lot of work to do here to be clear with our residents and to show what the investments actually are. And I want to say that with the understanding that I know we are trying to repair some significant harm that has been done over a very long period of time with this community, and I know that's a slow process, and I want to acknowledge that there is movement. I mean, your position alone demonstrates that we are taking this bit more seriously. But the last thing I'll say is, these reports that you brought, yes, they are online. They are relatively incomprehensible to access. Now, if a resident can't come and do a searchable, can search these documents, right? It's like the NYCHA problem. They put all the data on the world, but they're incomprehensible. Nobody can search them. So for that matter, they don't exist. So I think if EDC would really think about investing in a searchable database, right, with all these incredible you have the data. It's about making it accessible to communities, and even for us. It's going to take me, I got through volume 1 and I was exhausted. I'll get through the other volumes, but there's a better way to do this, and the organization should be striving to do that, because without it, it is not accessible. It doesn't exist. So thank you, Chair, for your gracious allowing me lots of time.
Councilmember, you always ride these hearings out with me, so you get to have some more time. Just quickly on intros 810 and 844, just a couple of questions just for clarity's sake. You've provided me a lot of information in your testimony. As it relates to intro number 844, does EDC believe that offering microgrants to specific qualifying businesses is feasible? And I know sometimes you folks end up being a fiscal conduit in ways for different providers, but do you folks see that as something that's feasible for the EDC?
So in this, I think we really would like to support and defer to NYCHA on the feasibility of doing this particular work. EDC is committed to entrepreneurship and development of local entrepreneurs, including NYCHA residents, but we just believe that this squarely sits in the purview of NYCHA.
Okay, and do you folks have any relationship or assistance for NYCHA's public housing development projects, their commercial areas? Do you work with any of them on that?
I'm afraid we don't
No?
interact with them.
Yeah, I would just add, Majority Leader, that for NYCHA development, whether it's, I'm not even familiar with commercial that NYCHA has, but they're, they have a real estate team, they have a development team, and so since EDC doesn't have any jurisdictional boundary over NYCHA property, that too would be squarely with them.
Okay, I'll reserve the rest of the questions for Councilmember Riley and I to discuss on the bills. I will say, while NYCHA does have all of those teams, we are also in a continuous mad dash effort to privatize NYCHA. And so, there needs to be a general discussion around how does the city assist NYCHA without allowing the expansion of privatization. And so I know you folks are like, this is NYCHA's jurisdiction and their gig. They have proven at times to continue to operate at a deficit and are, promoting the only way people get to fix their apartments is to sell their, to privatize their apartments. And that's not necessarily where we want to put more funds into their hands, at least in my personal opinion. But I appreciate that. With no other questions, this panel is adjourned and you folks are good to go. Thank you so much for coming today. I will now move over to public comment period. And I'll open up the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed at the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, each member of the public will have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topics, which again are introductions 164, 165, 810, and introductions 860 and 861, and resolution number 77. I'm going to call the, and if you have written testimony or any additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Within 72 hours of this hearing, audio and visual recordings will not be accepted. I will now call the first panel up. That's Evelyn Ortiz, Larry Rothschild, Chris Lugero, and Gregory Morris. And because this is a female majority, Evelyn, you go first. Unless you guys have a plan to, okay.
All right. Bueno, buenas tardes. Good afternoon. My name is Evelyn Ortiz, and I am the Co-Chief Executive Officer of Opportunities for a Better Tomorrow, a longstanding member of the New York City Employment Training Coalition. Thank you, Majority Leader Farias and the members of the Council for the opportunity to speak to you today. So founded in 1983, OBT is dedicated to breaking the cycle of poverty and inequity through education, job training, and employment. Annually, OBT assists over 1,000 individuals, more than 90% of whom are people of color who are unemployed and underemployed and lack the basic numeracy and literacy skills needed to secure family-sustaining wages. We do appreciate the administration's efforts thus far to boost the economy post-pandemic, create jobs, and address inequitable practices. The appointment of Maria Torres Springer as the Deputy Mayor for Housing, Economic Development, and Workforce does mark a historic step towards systemic improvement. However, despite these advances, significant gaps remain that must be addressed as many of our communities continue to face substantial challenges. For instance, Brooklyn's overall unemployment rate stands at an 11.17%, higher than the overall city unemployment rate. And in communities like Brownsville, these figures are even more alarming, with an unemployment rate as high as 28.8%. Furthermore, the Bureau of Labor Statistics forecasts An increased demand for highly educated workers by 2026, many of our residents lack the essential skills needed for these advanced roles, limiting their ability to participate in and benefit from growing industries. And I just want to be clear, it takes OBT about 6 months to a year to train an individual in some of these advanced sectors. And if the person does not have English language literacy, it can take even more. It can take almost 2 years to have someone advance from a basic level to an intermediate level. So continuous, uninterrupted investments are necessary to address these challenges, and they're not enough on their own. Right, so overall, I think what's really clear, and based on what was shared today, is that there is a demand for these jobs within the community. There is a lack of understanding, based on what you were all sharing, around where these jobs are, like what types of jobs are available, not just for our higher skilled individuals, but those that are seeking to be upskilled. There is a need for funding, but a real need for real collaborative efforts on the ground, right? We need to understand the data, but we also need to be brought together. We're seeing that these efforts are happening across the state with like the Micron investments, but there's so much more that we can do and we can leverage together as one system. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Larry Rothschild. I'm the Senior Managing
Just to make sure your microphone has to be on. This room is a little weird with it, but yeah, thank you.
I'm Larry Rothschild. I'm the Senior Managing Director of Workforce Development at St. Nick's Alliance. I'd like to thank everyone for your efforts. St. Nick's Alliance Workforce Development Center has been providing skills training and employment services for over 25 years. We serve 1,700 residents of North and Central Brooklyn every year. We are an active member of New York City Employment and Training Coalition. And we train in high demand sectors, including the green trades, healthcare, financial services, and technology. We serve both adults and young adults, and we ensure that our participants have a lot of the skills they need to be successful: job readiness, digital literacy, transformational coaching, paid work experience, matching with industry mentors, post-placement job retention support, and alumni meetups. All of these services help them to be successful. We see both job seekers and employer partners as our customers, and we make sure that we're meeting the needs of employers. St. Nick's seeks funding to fully support the community demand for these sector-focused trainings. Additional funding would help. Funding does not always support the comprehensive services our participants need. For example, paid work experiences is not always provided, and it's a critical component. With additional funding, St. Nick's Alliance would run additional cohorts to better meet employer and participant demand and expand sector training for both adults and young adults. And also critical is longer funding cycles, and elimination of funding gaps would allow us to maintain regular operations, meet demand, and maintain strong and experienced staff. For example, with our EPA funding, we've been able to run 3-year cycles without a gap since 2001. We currently train 650 annually. We run weekly info sessions, but our sector wait list and demand for trainings is growing. St. Nick's is a community-based organization, and our workforce development activities have stemmed from our work in the East Williamsburg industrial community, where we started with entry-level worker training for environmental remediation technician, truck drivers, bookkeepers, and office staff. We've expanded that effort, and now we partnered with Two Trees on the Domino Sugar Project redevelopment, where they've hired 150 people and work with us on all of our green trades. We've expanded this model for an employer-paid model. We're doing this on the Broadway Triangle redevelopment project with Mega. We're doing this on the Greenpoint Hospital redevelopment campus with Hudson.
You have to wrap.
Okay.
Okay.
And with Hudson and Greenpoint, Hudson and Broadway Builders, and we've expanded that with employer partners in the community. Thank you.
There we go. Hi. Okay. Okay. All right. We're good.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me today. My name is Chris Lugero. I'm the Vice President of Communications here at the Doe Fund, and we are proud to be a resource and a partner in expanding economic opportunity to marginalized New Yorkers, 90% of whom are individuals of color and all of whom are experiencing homelessness. We are so grateful for the support that we have received from the City Council to accomplish just that. Y'all may be familiar with some of our programming, Ready, Willing, and Able. It's connected nearly 14,000 people experiencing homelessness to employment and to housing. It provides transitional work experience, workforce development, and supportive services to help people stabilize and thrive. And actually next month, we're gonna be beginning our first ever green jobs training track in HVAC repair. And you know, I think there's a recognition from everyone here that this push toward green jobs is providing a stronger pathway to living wage careers and high demand fields, right? Of course, we're also a proud member of the New York City Employment and Training Coalition. It's the voice of more than 220 organizations that provide job training to more than 500,000 New Yorkers each year, and primarily in underserved communities. I'll let Greg speak more on that. But really to cut to the chase here, you know, Mayor Adams has set this goal in his State of the City a few months back for 5 million new jobs by 2025. The administration is going to rely on all of us members of NYC EDC to make that happen, and specifically on the organizations here, like the Doe Fund, to ensure that economic opportunity reaches those experiencing homelessness. And that's why we're all calling on the City Council to invest in equitable access to quality jobs for marginalized New Yorkers by increasing the funding for proven workforce development programs. I mean, at Ready, Willing, and Able, just participating in the program doubles the chance of getting employment. Graduates are earning 25% more than minimum wage and are half as likely to recidivate. I just want to share one quick story of somebody I spoke to, a graduate of the program, really quickly before I get booted here. I was talking a couple days ago with this individual named Gennaro Perez, and he came into our facility 10 months ago with nothing except for a commitment to change his life. Now, 10 months later, he's got his high school equivalency, he's got his American Welding Society certification, he was hired as a metal fabricator and a millwright, he became a member of the Sheet Metal Welders Union, Local 19, he's reunited with his children, and he is one of 100 people that will be celebrating at our graduation ceremony next month. And if anyone in this room doubts the importance and the efficacy of workforce development, of what we do, come to that ceremony. I'll give you the details, and you can talk to them face to face and see the impact of this work on human lives. Thank you for your time.
Majority Leader, thank you very much. Councilmember Aviles, thank you. There's been more conversation this week about workforce development for vulnerable communities than it has been in a long time, and that's a credit. That's a credit to you. I just want to start by saying, as representative of the New York City Employment Training Coalition, as CEO, as noted, 220 organizations all focused on workforce development. We see workforce development as a connection and as a linkage to economic development. That's the pathway to mobility, and that's the pathway to growth. It was important for us to come today, and there are others sitting who are in the next panel, who are here to talk about what they do, because what you've put forward in terms of these bills is allowing them to continue to execute on the priorities. And as much as our friends at EDC bring to the table significant resource and significant opportunity, and we'll talk the talk about workforce development, they are not the experts. These are the experts. These are the ones that are responsible for, in terms of being the skilled practitioners, being the advocates, ensuring that the local job seekers, regardless of their starting point, have access to opportunity. These are the truth tellers as well that will tell you whether or not we're actually seeing results. And as you have pointed out during this hearing, we're not seeing those results. We're certainly not seeing that accountability. I also just want to make one or two other notes in relation to EDC's commentary about cost. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars. We're talking about significant projects. The idea that we might then pause and say, but a consultant is too expensive to do a report is fascinating. That someone would actually hand you a giant impact report and say, all the answers are here, is absurd, and you called that out, and I appreciate that. I consider EDC to be a partner. I actually think ultimately we want some of the same things, but you have to make us accountable for, or you have to make it accountable for us to be able to do that work in true collaboration. People throw around the word partner a lot. People sign MOUs that talk about I'm your partner, I'm your partner, I'm your partner. Unless there's money on the table, unless there's power on the table, unless there's results on the table, there is no partnership. I appreciate every single bill you've introduced, the resolution that is critical and also calls into mind what we have to do in Albany to make some results happen. But this investment counts, and these are the truth tellers that'll tell you whether or not we're getting it done for you, your constituents in New York City. Once again, thank you.
I really appreciate each of you coming today and providing your testimony and the numbers and the stories that you are uplifting and elevating every single day and making realize, like, actually happening for people in our communities. I come from a place of working in government and then switching over and working at a labor nonprofit where I was actually the person that had to make these opportunities real for people or not. And so this topic today, this package today for this hearing, the bills that I've introduced are about re-envisioning our long-term planning and job training and development in our city. So I appreciate you folks coming. Just a couple of questions that I'm going to ask folks today. And I heard this somewhat. In your experience, what are the most significant gaps in terms of funding for job training and employment programs? And anyone can answer.
Supportive services, right? So when we think about the individuals that we're serving and what is happening right now when it comes to mental health, and how it's really impacting specifically our young adults that are out of school and out of work, and our adults as well who have been impacted by the system in some way or another. We need more funding to support supportive services, by providing those the case management support in addition to, like funding for food, for transportation. It's all lacking. And it is essential because there's only training funding, right, that's available. But how about the funding that is going to be needed in order to get the person through the door and retain them in the program and retain them while they're at the job as well?
I would also add to that the same supportive services, mental health, food insecurities, transportation are all critical. Most of our contracts don't provide for mental health services. We have to refer out, so that would be extremely helpful. And then also work experience, I think, should be something that every participant should be able to have access to.
I appreciate that. I know from one of my training pipelines was only 14 weeks, and by week 6 we were losing half of the class because even with a Metro card and even with lunch and dinner covered, there were people that didn't have childcare or couldn't actually last without having an additional job. So having, some sort of allotment of funds to do the training. So I appreciate those responses. What has been the impact of major development projects in the communities you serve, both in terms of economic opportunities and community displacements or the lack thereof of investment?
I think for us, I mentioned that at St. Nick's Alliance we partner on some major construction projects and development communities, and it's been able to afford our participants to be able to stay in the communities that they come from. So that's been very successful. I mentioned the Two Trees project, Broadway Triangle redevelopment, and the Greenpoint Hospital redevelopment. And some of these developer partners have also adapted to a pay-per-training model, so they're supporting us in ways that funding hasn't allowed. So I think that's critical to a local pipeline and career promotion in the sectors.
So we're along the waterfront in Sunset Park, and although we've been actively participating in many of the efforts that are happening, and there's a lot of announcements and a lot of movement that is going on, to date we haven't really seen the true the true benefit of some of these investments, and we know that a lot of them are still in development, right? So I think that at this very moment, what we're seeing is just a really great opportunity that we're gearing up for. And we're really excited about this opportunity and really trying to see how we can support both our adults and our young adults to prepare. But, I think most of the jobs that we are looking to place our young adults in and our adults are outside of the local community. So that is something that, we're particularly focused on as we continue these conversations and really try to get a better understanding of when the jobs will become live, right? As we continue to train and empower people to gain access to these opportunities.
If I could just add, regardless of what project you pick, whether it's the Imagine project at Kingsbridge or it is the North Shore of Staten Island, it's the Spark Kips Bay campus. Regardless of where you look at this particular moment, no matter what stage of the development there is, and actually you can work backwards to Hudson Yards if you want here, what you're not going to find is data that tells you where the local job seekers found employment opportunities. And while it is absolutely the case that this coalition, these organizations have sought to work in partnership with EDC, NYC Office of Talent and Workforce Development, SBS, and the cavalcade of organizations and entities that have an interest in what development looks like moving forward, the reality is we don't have a plan. There isn't a tent pole. There isn't a strategy. There's lots of folks with an interest. If SBS is in that pocket, it's thought of that SBS is the answer. SBS is not resourced by any stretch of the imagination to put people on long-term pathways to careers that they can live in New York City. In other pockets, it'll be CUNY. CUNY does fantastic work. They have had a very difficult time finding career pathways for CUNY grads because employers don't always look to CUNY grads for answers. And then there are providers like our coalition members, the Lower East Side Employment Network, for instance, which was in a pocket of the city on the Lower East Side that was able to demonstrate success to be able to connect economic development, workforce development over the course of time, long enough now that that exists and it's in place, and but they will tell you they had to rely on philanthropic funding to make that possible, not the commitment and connection of public dollars over the course of time. That's the kind of thing, that's the gap that exists. That's the kind of absence of accountability that exists. And to what you said earlier, that's the absence of investment that exists and the true assets in this city, which is not about the projects, it's about the people.
Thank you. And I'd love to hear thoughts. It could be yes or no or expanded on the linkage fee, if it would be helpful, if we believe that proposed linkage fees would help support the work of the organizations that you folks are a part of, whether that's in providing job training and workforce development services, whether that's alleviating some of the costs that you have to offset for other items. I'd just love to hear thoughts on the linkage fees, if anyone has any.
Well, I can weigh in here and say this. As you heard from this group, workforce development happens within these shops. Each one will tell you that they are getting 80 cents on the dollar essentially from City Gov if they're relying on those contracts, so they're already in a hole. I think they'll also tell you that philanthropy is a constant fight to be able to ensure the resources that they need. As was flagged during the course of this, supportive services are additional costs that are expensive. As was identified in the earlier conversation this week, the other hearing related to asylum seekers, New Yorkers, there are additional investments, significant investments that need to be made to build those on-ramps of opportunity over month after month after month. The value of a fee, the value of an actual commitment that's written and conceptualized as something you have to have in place, that's an accountability opportunity to make sure that building and developing results in actual employment opportunity. Employment opportunity only comes if the talent is ready. The talent's only ready if these guys are resourced to be able to execute on the training programs and opportunities. So I appreciate what you've put forward. One additional note, the city has relied on Hire NYC as a solution. It has not worked. I don't know anybody who would tell you that it has. I think people within the city secretly will tell you it hasn't worked. That's the pivot to the community hiring office, which is an interesting piece of this puzzle, which ultimately there needs to be some intersection in terms of accountability. But at the end of the day, if the wealth and resources aren't here, we're not going to see the outcomes. One final note, if you look at the dollars that have been directed to workforce development over the last 10 years, you will see increases. The problem is workforce development looks very different from the 16-year-old that reads at a third grade level for a first-time job to the second act job seeker who's thought their retirement was going to hold out and now it's not gonna, to the person who actually wants to be in the solar panel business in New York City and sees that as a pathway forward. That goes from $200 to 35 grand. Where is that money? How is it consistent? What does it mean? It takes more than what we have now to get that done.
Great. I really appreciate your responses. Councilmember, do you have any questions?
Yeah, and I guess first and foremost comment, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the work you're doing, and I 100% agree. You are the experts, and I think what we saw today and continue to see is definitely the gap, the gulf between the honest truth and the propaganda to make private entities a whole lot of profit, and sometimes making profit for our own city. And I guess, you know, in terms of I'm glad, I was gonna ask you about New York Hire. I was also gonna ask whether I have witnessed city agencies, EDC, extract a whole lot of expertise from some of the entities on the dais and offer no exact contracts and no investment over the long term to be able, OBT should be seeing enormous amounts of investment to get ready for 4 years when SBMT is ready to transition into an actual staging center, yet there is unclear whether there are any direct investments there. So I guess I'm now moving over into comment land, but I guess I would like to know if you all receiving direct investments from some of these mysterious community benefits or funds or whatever they like to call them, which is why we need them to report and make consistent investments. So it's I guess a broad question. Are you seeing direct investments from EDC?
Sorry, I'm just gonna let the record reflect that there were nods of no.
A unanimous no for the record. Yeah, I guess I don't need to read any of this. We could just put it in the flame. Anyway, thank you so much for your work. We're going to continue to fight for full investment in the work of workforce, which we know takes time, and we absolutely must invest in it. So I thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, folks. This panel is now dismissed. I'd like to call up the next panel, which I will just call 3 folks as a removal of chairs. Denia Tavares, Emerita Torres, and Antoinette Gregg. Sorry, I read that with a Bronx accent, everyone. You folks can begin when ready. Emerita, would you like to begin?
Is it on now? Perfect, okay. Hi, thank you, Majority Leader Farias. Thank you, Councilmember Aviles and the entire council for inviting CSS. My name is Emerita Torres, and I'm the Vice President of Policy at the Community Service Society of New York. For decades, CSS has been working directly with NYCHA tenants to improve conditions, promote economic opportunities, and bolster resident democracy, in addition to the many other things that we do. Our Unheard Third survey found that 1 in 5 NYCHA residents are unemployed, with the highest unemployment rates among young men. So last fall, we co-hosted a workshop with Red Hook Initiative to uplift the resident perspective, which Councilmember Aviles actually attended, so thank you for that. 3 takeaways from the event. 71% supported making the Summer Youth Employment Program year-round and universal. Duplication of services and confusion about them was a large concern. Residents want a more centralized workforce development strategy, not a spattering of disconnected programs, which is why we support Intro 0860. However, the bill, we find, should clarify how the data will be integrated into the Mayor's Workforce Development Council. And finally, a key word here that we learned from residents was trauma. Residents stressed that jobs mean nothing without the censoring of mental and physical health. One resident said, employment is not the panacea for everything. Without support across all social determinants, you're on a hamster wheel. So alongside job training funding, which was emphasized in the previous panel, we recommend funding mobile health teams and trauma-informed approaches like Cure Violence in Chicago, the Trauma Response Team in Baltimore, and Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles. Our written testimony outlines other recommendations, including reforming the current Section 3 federal program, which has failed NYCHA tenants. Intro 0165 could codify a Section 3-like program at the city level. However, we caution that not all projects are created equal with respect to margins and labor force opportunities, so we make specific recommendations to this bill in our written testimony. And finally, we are supportive of Intro 0810 and 0844 to promote entrepreneurship. We find that the number of self-employed NYCHA residents increased by 472% between 2012 and 2021, but that less than 1% of NYCHA residents own businesses, compared to 9.8% of the entire New York City population. And we think that these bills can create more NYCHA tenant entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader Farias, Councilmember Avelas, and the members of the council for the opportunity to testify. I am Antoinette Gregg. I'm the Senior Director of Development for Perscolas. It is the oldest tech workforce organization founded and headquartered in the Bronx. In nearly 30 years, we have trained more than 25,000 alumni, and since 2009, Perscolas has trained more than 9,000 New Yorkers. We are poised this year to train 900 and next year 1,000. So we are expanding, and it's needed. Our mission is to advance economic equity by providing tuition-free tech training to individuals traditionally underrepresented in tech. On average, 9% of folks enrolled in our programs are BIPOC, 30% are women, 30% are from immigrant families. And this is in contrast to the sector where less than 20% of people of color and only about 5% are women. Since the pandemic, Perscolas has more than doubled the number of people enrolled in our programs. We've used a satellite model that allows us to work in partnership with CBOs to have classrooms in every single borough. We place our learners at 80% within 12 months of graduation, and they are in thriving wage positions in companies like Barclays, Morgan Stanley, Nagarro, and Tech Systems. In Q4 of last year, employers were looking to fill more than 32,000 tech positions in New York City alone, with a median salary of $128,000 annually. Of these jobs posted, 51% listed either no education requirement or a minimum of just high school diploma. Perscolas's population is this population. And so we have this huge task, along with my colleagues here, to upskill low-income folks, and this requires expanded and sustained investment. It is critical for the city to make investments in technical training and to also become a conduit to increase employer commitments from companies to hire for organizations like Perscolas, who have a proven track record of placing quality talent. So we commend this committee for the proposed legislative items and resolutions. And as a fundraiser and advocate for Perscolas, I implore the city to make technology as much as a priority as some of these traditional sectors of the city. Technology is burgeoning, it's ever-changing, it's pervading in every single sector, and it needs to be expanded. So funding for upskilling and training in tech skills is critical for New York City. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Okay, great. Good afternoon. So thank you to the City Council Economic Development Chair Farias and the Committee on Economic Development for their work to strengthen the linkages between economic and workforce development. My name is Denia Tavares, and I'm the Senior Manager of Culinary Talent at Hot Bread Kitchen, an organization that uses food industry as a catalyst for economic mobility. Thank you to the City Council for your ongoing support for our work, our members, and our initiatives. We are also a proud member of the New York City Economic and Training Coalition, and here today in support of increased funding for our job training, education, and employment program. Over the last 16 years, Harbor Kitchen has supported a community of over 1,700 women. Many of them are immigrants, people of color, and assisting them in launching culinary careers. We've also worked with employers, over 180 employers throughout the city, particularly in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. And, I'm sharing that information, and I would also like to add a little quick story regarding one of our members. So Ophelia immigrated from Mexico with her 2 children. And like 70% of the individuals that go through our program, she was unemployed. She worked through our culinary training in 2023. She launched her kitchen fundamentals and professional skills and learned to work alongside others. After graduating, my team provided her with direct job placement assistance, and she was connected with one of our employer partners, Farm to People. Today, Ophelia is thriving. She's working as a prep cook. She's able to provide for her family, and we hear great feedback from our employer partner, Farm to People, as well. This story illustrates the success of Harbor Kitchen's work as the nonprofit arm of the food industry, supporting job seekers, food employers, and the economy. These employers across the industry include corporate dining, bakeries, cafes, and restaurants. And also, I'm very proud to share that once our member is placed, they are more likely to stay at the job, and we proudly speak about 70% retention at 1 year of employment. On behalf of Harbor Kitchen, I respectfully urge the committee to pass this resolution. Thank you for your attention to this important issue.
Thank you all so much for coming to testify today. I'm very familiar with Harbor Kitchen and Perscolis's work, obviously, and CSS's work. Thank you to Team CSS for such an in-depth testimony. I will likely follow up with questions. There are a lot of recommendations there. Councilmember Aviles, do you have any questions? Okay, thank you so much. This panel is now dismissed. I'll now call our last 2 in-person panelists, and we have 1 person on Zoom, Ibrahim Xavier Johnson and Sharon Brown. You can come to the office. Ibrahim, you can begin.
Yes, I can go? Yes, my name is Ibrahim Xavier Johnson. I live in Harlem. I have a construction background. I was in the Army Corps of Engineers. I did construction projects in Nicaragua, Alabama, and Louisiana. I also work for DDC, New York City Department of Design and Construction. I am aware of community impact. Every construction project impacts the community differently. I applaud you. I support this legislation that you're introducing. You're putting the community first. That stack of paper that you have right there, it's about empowering the community boards. I had a recent negative experience with MTA trying to propose a project. They offended us at the community board. And I thought about that when I came to this hearing, that the community boards need more input. Your legislation does that. I heard from the administration, they're talking about all this bureaucracy stuff, but the bottom line is that you are empowering the people. That's what we elect officials for. And I just want to remind you that we elected Yusuf Salam because of that reason. And in Harlem, I elect officials and I unelect officials. So as long as they empower us, as long as they make it rain, especially with construction projects are cash cows, and we should get paid from that. We should be hired, we should get the jobs. Your legislation does that. You're trying to empower us, and I'm very happy to be here in the City Council and glad to know that we have other City Council members with your vision. And I'm very happy that you're doing that, and please keep up the good work. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I'll let Councilmember Salam know he must sign on to these bills.
Absolutely, he must. He must.
I appreciate that. Sharon? Please turn on your microphone.
Before I start, I just want to say, release the hostages, let Yahweh's people go, defend Israel. Try to do something
I will
about
remind
this.
you that topic, you have to be on topic at this hearing.
I am.
Okay, great. So please begin your on-topic testimony.
I couldn't help it. This is economic opportunities, right?
Yes.
There should be funding for people to get houses and businesses. We shouldn't only be limiting them to getting apartments. Your own houses and businesses initiative. We're talking about small businesses, but there should also be some kind of initiative for people who want to become a major corporation. Maybe if some of these small businesses can get into some kind of program, or they make a program where they can become a major corporation. Like, say, if you have Kinko's, get with Apple and a whole bunch of companies get together, and all the things they do, they come together and become one big company. The small businesses, not everyone, but some of them might want to become a major corporation that does a variety of things. And there should be economic opportunities for people who want to become a major corporation, not just small businesses. So houses, businesses, and major corporations as well.
Thank you so much for your testimony today. We will now turn over to our virtual testimony on Zoom, and I'd like to call on Alex Malesio. You can unmute yourself.
You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Farias and members of the Committee on Economic Development. My name is Alex Malesio, and I'm here today on behalf of Urban Upbound, aka East River Development Alliance, Inc., to express support for intros 165, 110, and 844. Urban Upbound is dedicated to breaking cycles of poverty in New York City's public housing and lower income communities. Two programs that are central to accomplishing our mission are workforce development and entrepreneurship support, and Urban Upbound believes that the aforementioned bills would have a positive impact on this body of work. Regarding Intro 165, the creation of a workforce development fund supported by developer-paid linkage fees is an opportunity to fill two gaps that, due to limited financial resources, commonly exist in workforce development programs across the city. These are skill-specific trainings and stipend programs. For instance, Urban Upbound provided over 200 clients with OSHA 30 and/or site safety training certificates last fiscal year. We've witnessed the demand for these classes firsthand, and with additional funding, we can more than double the number of clients who enroll in our free classes. Additionally, some of Urban Upbound's most successful programs that provide free skill-specific trainings have traditionally been paired with stipends for participants. Such programs, which typically can take days, if not weeks, or potentially months to complete, and thus are often difficult to attend for New Yorkers who are trapped in cycles of poverty. Therefore, Urban Upbound recommends that the study proposed by Intro 165 explore the impact of specifically funding stipends and skill-specific trainings. Entrepreneurs, particularly those who are NYCHA residents, face when starting or growing a small business: lack of access to capital and operating space. Urban Upbound support works diligently to connect the entrepreneurs we support to accessible capital and operating space. But there's
Good, you can finish.
you
can finish.
But there is simply not enough available to meet the needs of lower income entrepreneurs, especially those who lack English proficiency or who are young adults. Urban Upbound fully supports all three of these bills and is happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for your testimony. You did go in and out for a second while giving testimony, so I would recommend that you submit your testimony for the written record. If you can make sure you email it to testimony@council.nyc.gov, just so we have it in completion. And I don't have any questions, but thank you folks for testifying today. The panel is now dismissed. Seeing no one else online or in the public to testify, this committee hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, everyone.